Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with some K9 Fiendsmith as requested by Moriarty God, who very generously subscribed to Patreon at the $20 tier. So thought I'd go ahead and make a video on a deck that he was talking about playing, which was K9 Fiendsmith, and sounded like a pretty interesting combination. I'm going to show you a turn 1 combo line where we go into both K9 and Fiendsmith cards. Now, I've actually blocked out my opponent's name because they have one that is honestly really uncool, just very offensive, and didn't want to give them any screen time for that. So this loser is playing Runic Stun, and as we saw from a brief glimpse in their hand off the Naroi, really has not that great of an opening hand. It was Solemn, Judgment, and Skill Drain were the only trap cards. There was the Majesty's Fiend, a Moon Mirror Shield, and Recycle, which is a pretty bad continuous spell card. Like, just a really terrible stun Runic build overall. We'll know it's Runic because they're going to use a Runic spell on their turn, but something that we can fully set up on without having to worry about it at all. So we're going to make Ripper first for most combo lines, and I'm holding the Lantern, which can revive a K9 card and make a rank 5, which can get us into our Nosh engine. I'll go ahead and show the deck list towards the end of the video as always, but we have those two extra bodies, and in more of like a pure K9 deck, you would go for another rank 5 like Valen potentially, but here we have the option because we're on Fiendsmith to make something like Caesar or Desiree instead. Now because I know what my opponent's on, I'm not going to bother making the Caesar. I know they're not going to be special summoning. I'll make the Desiree to negate like the skill drain. The Solemn Judgment is the only card I'm even close to worried about here, but even then we can just swing in for lethal anyway. They already don't have the ability to summon anything based on what's in their hand, and so between that and the Moon Mirror Shield, and the Recycle, that's more than half their hand that's useless. If I just go into battle phase, even if they flip Skill Drain, there's not really anything they could do at this point. Even if they top deck Mirror Force and set it, I can just use Desiree to negate that, as well as a Skill Drain. And of course that doesn't even factor in all of our face down cards either. Yeah, so here's the Smithing Storm, or Smiting Storm rather. That's going to banish a bunch, and then yeah, they're just going to go ahead and concede. Like I said, just an overall terrible stun build. Even within the realm of stun decks, just a pretty terrible build from a pretty terrible player. And again, don't feel bad saying that based on what their username was. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and go into our next duel here. This one is going to be a going first game again. We're going to have some going second games later on, but this duel is really going to highlight the importance of Izuna. In particular, I think if you're playing any K9 deck, you should always be on 3 Izuna for sure, because of course it not only acts as a hand trap, but an extender during your turn as well. Here we're going to start off with Fiendsmith plays, and they're going to get negated by the Ash Blossom. They're going to use that against the Lacrima. Although if our opponent was going to use the Ash Blossom, they really should have done it against the Fiendsmith's Requiem, the Link monster, because with the Lacrima body out, I could still potentially link into a sequence here. However, they're going to Nibiru as soon as I go Izuna plus Lupus. However, that leaves my case for K9 open to then add the Lantern and further make plays. So in this instance, the Izuna was so important because it let us extend retroactively through the Nibiru. Like, obviously I didn't know they had Nibiru when I went Izuna Lupus, but if they hadn't used Nibiru then, I would have gone for Ripper, and Ripper would have been able to negate Nibiru moving forward. So here though, I can just use the Nosh Knight to absorb the Nibiru as a material, and then I can make the CXC's Nosh Knight, which will then allow me to go into the Umbral Horror Masquerade. I think the Nosh Knight engine is relatively optional for K9 builds. It is a lot of extra deck slots, 4 in total, for 104, C104, Nosh Knight, and CXC's Nosh Knight. However, I do think it really is worth it. It's a very, very powerful effect to not only negate a monster, but also force your opponent to discard a random card and then have their life points. Here, I'm choosing to go for it even over the Ripper, and even though it's going to leave my face down case for K9, or not case for K9, the quick play spell, whatever, I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to use that, but we do still have not only the Umbral Horror, well not anymore because of the droplet, but as you can see here now we have the Fiendsmith's Lacrima, which has the ability, or Lacrima the Crimson Tears rather, which has the ability to send the trap card to the graveyard. Now with that Fiendsmith trap card's graveyard effect, we can of course send a card to the graveyard as soon as it's special summoned. And I'm going to definitely wait against my opponent here and use it for their power bond, because I know they're on a Cyber Dragon. Obviously, they're doing the whole combo line, right? And I know that OTKs through the Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon. So at this point, I'm just waiting for power bond to summon that, and then I'll use, I'm blanking on so many different names today. I can't remember the trap card's name off the top of my head, but we're going to banish the Fiendsmith trap card out of the graveyard, send Desiree, and then send that to the graveyard. Now, my opponent's going to try to bait me out with that a lot here. Like, they're going to revive the Cyber Dark Worm, but that just adds back Realm, which doesn't do anything. Now they're going to use the Hers graveyard effect to add Cyber Dragon, but that's fine, I don't care about that. Here's what I've been waiting for, which is the Power Bond. It's going to fuse for 3, which again will be the Rampage Dragon. And after that special summon, they can pop my face down Fiendsmith in Paradise, that's right. Yeah, we're going to use the Paradise Graveyard effect. That will let me send Desiree, and then Desiree can send away the Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon. Now, they could still make a link to, I know Cyber Dragon has their, I think Siger is what it's called, and it looks like they're about to make that, but they can't push through the Nibiru token with that alone, and as a result, they're going to go ahead and just surrender here. Okay, for this game, trying to remember, I remember for sure that our last duel is going to be going second, but this one looks like is another going first game. Okay. Okay, so here I open Perulia, and I don't always use Perulia on my turn 1. I understand why people will shotgun it against Izana on their own turn 1, but I don't always like doing that. Here I am going to do it during the main phase, however, just to see if they do try to like activate Izana, or in this case Phimena, because they were getting past priority, so I was pretty convinced they had a quick effect, and I have the triple attack in hand, so I wanted to try to make use of that if possible. So here I'm going to use the Izana send Lupus. They're going to Arthelion and actually target the Lupus as well as the Naroi, and then using the Orgola, I'm going to chain the Lupus effect to revive. Since it's being targeted specifically in the graveyard, the Arthelion won't bounce it even if it ends up on the field. They're going to set Ketu, pop Case for K9. I can add back Naroi. I can use Case set Force Release, and then I'm going to overlay for the Ripper. Now here we're going to get to activate the Ripper effect to search, and I am going to make a misplay here. I added the Lantern, totally forgetting that Naroi was back in my hand. Definitely should have just grabbed Jokel there, and then I could have added Lantern, and I basically could have made Desiree as well as the Nosh Knight that I'm about to make here. So I missed out on my Fiendsmith line. That is a pretty big misplay, but also it's not going to super matter here, because I'm going to use Nosh Knight to absorb the Arthelion as a material. Then I can go into the Umbral Horror Masquerade, which will pop their face down Ketu, and on top of that, I still have the triple attack to hand rip one of their last 2 remaining cards. So between all of that and the Ripper negate and the Umbral Horror negate plus discard, I really don't think, oh, and also the Force Release and the Ash Blossom, I don't think they're going to really have a chance here. And my opponent, realizing the same thing, is going to concede. Okay, last game is going to be a going second grind game. If I remember right, it's going to be against Radiant Typhoon. Because I'm remembering playing against Radiant Typhoon in the Duelist Cup recently, and they specifically made a misplay that I wanted to talk about. Okay, so they're going to take the first turn. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is that game. Okay, so they go to main phase 1, and then they activate Radiant Typhoon Chant in order to add the Album. But you can already probably pick up on what the misplay is as I go to respond with the Droll and Lockbird. And I stress this a lot in my Radiant Typhoon videos. I'm going to stress it here too as I'm playing against somebody who makes this misplay. You have got to use your Radiant Typhoon Quick Buy spells to search and draw during the draw phase. Otherwise, you end up like my opponent here and not able to establish a solid or even much of a board at all. Now, I'm going to make my own fair share of misplays. I already have in this video, and I will in this game specifically. But yeah, like I said, if you're on Radiant Typhoon, or even if you're on Mitsurugi with prayers, you gotta make sure you're firing off those quick play spells during the draw phase. And your toggle has to be set to on in order to do that. Okay, here I'm going to triple attack and put back their Magnum Hut, but instead of just adding the Izana, like I should have, I went for a Naroi after taking a card away from their hand. If I was going to add Naroi, obviously should have done it before I triple attacked them, so I just totally blanked there. I don't know what was happening during this play session. I was just not together. I was probably watching YouTube while I played, something I'm really guilty of, and I don't know. Granted, it's Duelist Cup Stage 1, so it's like, who cares if you lose? It literally doesn't matter. But, I don't know. Do as I say, not as I do. You should really be focusing during your games. And obviously during, like, tournaments and other high-ranked games, I'm not, like, on YouTube while I play. Now here, our opponent and I... us, rather. I don't know. Came out kind of weird. Anyway, we're going to pass back and forth for a little bit, but they do end up passing with 2 cards in hand, which will give me an opportunity to summon the Noroi. I'm going to take a peek at their hand. It was Fua plus Super Poly, and I'm going to go ahead and link into the Ripper. And my suspicions, I somewhat suspected that was another Super Poly when I saw one in hand, and sure enough it is. So, because I was like, why would they not set Super Poly there is what I was thinking, and the first thing I thought of was, oh, they probably have another one face down. So, by going into Ripper, which I would have done anyway, we bait out the Super Poly, they're going to go for the Mud Dragon. Now I can use the Lantern that's in my hand, and then we can use Lantern to not only summon and then revive the Jokel, but now I can add a Canine Spell or Trap card. And at this, my opponent's going to end up conceding. Makes sense, we know that all they have left is Mud Dragon plus Fulos. There's not really much else they can do at that point. Okay, here is the deck list, and I'm going to click through all the cards here one by one a couple of times, so that way we can take a peek at each and every card here. So, the idea of K9 Fiendsmith is basically, this is just, in my opinion, a straight up improved version of pure K9. Because, like I said earlier during the first game where I showed off a going first combo line, rather than ending on another rank 5 like Valen, the Super Psy Sky Blaster, which is still a really good rank 5 when we're playing it, but rather than making that, you can use your 2 remaining bodies, the ones that don't go into Ripper and the Noshite engine, you can use those to instead make Moon and then go into a Fiendsmith line. I like the versatility of being able to either go into Desiree or Caesar, and we also have the Fiendsmith in Paradise setup with the Lacrima. There's a ton of room in both the main and extra deck here, by the way. You'll notice I'm on 2 Triple Tactics talent, which I don't normally play. Usually if I'm playing Triple Tack in a build, I'm only playing the 1, but honestly, like I said, there's a ton of space in this main deck, so you could take out that Triple Tack for any other card that you want to play. Same with the Fiendsmith in Paradise. It's a nice option to have, but it's not super necessary. Now, as far as like other optional engines and stuff go, I know when Moriarty Guard was asking me about the build, they were on Bestial with Lubellion, as well as some Kashira stuff like Fenrir and Unicorn. You could do that, but I think that if you are going to have this extra space, it tends to be better to devote it to hand traps. Even if you don't own cards like Perulia or like 3 copies of Fulos, then you could definitely still be playing like Ghost Bells or, again, just other hand traps. The Bestials aren't bad. I don't think you necessarily need Lubellion and all that stuff, but yeah, I really think that as far as engines go, the K9 and Fiendsmith stuff is definitely strong enough to end games together. They don't necessarily need something like Fenrir Unicorn or like Lubellion to assist them. The Bestials aren't terrible in this meta, though. If you wanted to play more off-engine / hand traps, and again, you don't own cards like Perulia, you could definitely be playing those instead. But I'm on the 2 Perulia because I think it's a very, very powerful hand trap right now. Alright, I think that's pretty much everything I have to say about the build. So hopefully you enjoyed the games and the video here. Again, shout out to Moriarty God as well as all the other Patreon subscribers and YouTube members. And with that mention, let's go ahead and end off the video so we can move to our outro where we will thank them specifically. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.